So we're back with Jordan Maxwell today, and we're going to be continuing off where we last left off on these incredible experiences he's had. And Jordan, the last time I was with you, you were telling me about this experience, this absolutely mind-bending experience with Bob Leeds. Would you be able to tell us about that?
Yeah, Bob Leeds is a dear, dear friend, but I haven't seen him in years. But I love Bob Leeds. He's my dear friend. I wish he would hear this and give me a call because I'd love to talk with him again. I miss him terribly. But I met Bob. Well, first of all, Bob was down in San Diego. He lived in San Diego, about 2 blocks from me. And, and we met up in Portland, Oregon, and that's a whole story in itself. I'll have to tell you about one of these days. That is a real strange story about how we met and what went on up in Portland. But anyway, we found out that up in Portland that I lived in San Diego, and so did he. Well, as it turns out, he was only about 2 blocks from me. So we became very dear friends up in Portland when we first met. We became very close friends instantly. Bob was the kind of guy you could really love quickly. You know, he was a really nice, but he was a kind of a heavy-set, big guy, worked in the motion picture industry, you know, a large guy, big guy, and he worked in the motion picture industry, and very important man. And so I met him, like I said, in Portland, and then we come find out that we both live close to each other in San Diego. And so when we got back, we started hanging out together, going out to dinner and movies and whatever. And so one morning, Saturday morning, Bob called me and said, "I want to take you out to breakfast. We'll go to a really nice place." He said, "So wherever it is you want to go, you know, well, I'm buying, so wherever you want to go, I want to take you to breakfast." So he came over, and we get in the car and we start to leave. Now we're in San Diego, and I said, "Well, where I'd like to go is Escondido." Well, Escondido is a little small, tiny little town about 15 miles north of San Diego, off the 15 freeway, about 10 miles north of San Diego on the 15 freeways. And he said, "Wait a minute. I said I was going to take you to breakfast in San Diego. I had in mind going to a really fancy place in downtown." And I said, "You said I could go where I want to go." And yeah, that's true. And I said, "Well, that's where I want to go. I want to go to Escondido." And he said, "There's nothing in Escondido. It's just a little tiny town. There's nothing there." I said, "Well, that's where I want to go." So he said, "All right, so we'll go to Escondido." So we get on the freeway, the 15 freeway, and we're driving north. And it's about a half-hour drive. And so while we're driving, the subject matter we came up was people that we would love to see, you know, at one more time in our life, friends that we've had that we haven't seen in many, many years, childhood friends, whatever, and somebody you really want to see. And so I told him about a couple of, friends of mine I went to school with, and I would love to know where they are today because we were so close when we were growing up. And then he told me about two of his friends, and he said one of them, he said, "I would love nothing more than to see my two friends that I have lost contact with many years ago. One is a uh, Indian that he was like a surrogate father to me. He was like another father to me." He said, I was like his son, and I used to hang out with him, and he was such a wonderful father-like figure for me when I was growing up. And I would love to be able to see that old man, again, but I haven't seen him in years. And then he said, and my other friend was a Mormon general contractor. And I went to school with him. We were the closest two people could be. We were as close as two friends could be. Went to school with him. He was my dearest friend, and I've lost track of him. Don't know where he is. Nobody who knows us knows where he lives. I haven't seen either one of them, and those are the two people I really would like to see. So we're just talking, just a current conversation. And so when we get into Escondido, we get off on, and there's only one street going through town that's the main street because it's such a little small place. And he said, "All right, now where are we going to have breakfast here? There is no place here." And so I said, well, just keep driving. We'll find a place. So, and I definitely wanted to be in Escondido and have breakfast there for some reason. And so he said, all right, so we'll find some place. So we're driving down the main street, and there was a IHOP, the International House of Pancakes. So I said, there it is. There's IHOP. That's where I want to go. And he said, you realize they got IHOPs 2 blocks away from your house? And we got to come all the way up to Escondido, and I was going to take you to a fancy restaurant, and you're coming up here to Escondido to an IHOP? And I said, look, you said I could go where I want, and that's where I want to go, is IHOP. He said, all right, so we'll go to IHOP. So we pull in and park, and we go in. Well, IHOP is full. People, the place is crowded because it's the only place in town for food, for breakfast. So we wait in line, and finally they come and get us. There's a little booth in the back. So we go back there and sit down. I've got my back against the group, and he's got his back against the wall, seeing the restaurant room. I don't, and I immediately noticed a change in his demeanor. Quickly, I noticed something. Something was bothering him very badly. And I watched his eyes, and he was kind of scared. I guess that was what I was feeling, as it was kind of like a fear came over him, and I could see it in his eyes. And I talked to him, and he didn't hear me. And so I know he's more than concentrating. Something is wrong. And so I said, Bob, I got his attention. I said, Bob, what's wrong? And he says, there is the old Native American, and there's my friend, the contractor. There they are both, right there, the two of them. And he said, I don't believe it. Coming up to this little town of Escondido to an IHOP, I just got through telling you the two people I wanted to see, and there they are, both of them, sitting there together. I cannot believe this. And he went over there and sat there, and I had breakfast by myself. He sat and had breakfast with them. And when I left, when we were leaving, he said, I don't know who you are. I don't know what's going on here, but every time I'm around you, strange stuff happens. And he said, but I am absolutely amazed. This is the two people I was telling you about on the way up here, and they're both sitting here having breakfast. He said, I have no idea how you do that. And I said, I didn't do anything. I just told you where I wanted to go. So that was quite an experience. That's quite an experience that happened. And Bob Leeds, every time I talk with him, he would tell me, I don't know how you did that. And the last time I talked with Bob was back in 1996. 1999, because I was just getting ready to go for the first time to Egypt to speak at a conference in Cairo in 1999. And he called me for the first time, and that happened back in 1990. So in 1999, he calls me, and I said, Bob, where in the world have you been? And he said, well, I'm over here in England. We're shooting a movie with Steven Seagal, and I'm here with Steven at his place, and we were just talking about you. I was telling him all about you, and we thought we'd give you a call and say hello. And so it was about time, for God's sake. So I talked with him, and so that was then. That was back in 1999. I haven't seen him since, but there's a reason. I mean, there's another story that goes with that. But I was actually myself shocked when those two people that he was talking about just a few minutes before were right there in the restaurant, and we could have gone anywhere in San Diego. But we went north into a little small town, into a little IHOP, and there were the two people he wanted to see most in his life, and they were both there. How does that happen?
That's incredible, and that's what I love about these stories. People have no idea the extraordinary people you have been around, and these things that just keep happening to you and happening to you. your whole life. They just surround you. It's because of who you are and what you came here to do. And I think that that's the most amazing thing. And if people start to really pay attention to these stories, there's incredible clues in there, I think, to who you are, where you come from. But that is
Well, and
fascinating.
I told you that I met Bob Leeds up in Portland, Oregon. Well, the rest of the story is back up to how I met him. I was sitting in San Diego in '96, I think it was, and having dinner on the ocean at a French restaurant on the ocean in '96 with my friend who was a psychic, astrologer, psychic guy who was very, very psychic. I mean, he used to tell me all kinds of things that was going to happen, and they happened exactly like he said. So we were having dinner in the afternoon, late afternoon, and then we went out and set out on the waters for a couple of drinks, and we're sitting there talking. My friend, the psychic friend of mine, and so I said to him, I said, "So what's going on with me? Tell me." So he said, "Well, all right." He said, "Now this was in 90. What did I say? 96? I think I said."
Yes, you did 96.
Yeah, I think it was 95 then. Anyway, 96. Anyway, he said next year. Now this was in like August of the year. It was like August, an August afternoon, San Diego. And he said, all right, next year, on January 2nd, 3rd, 3, 4, and 5, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, yeah. He said, this happened, quite a long time ago. And he said, so when I asked him, so what's happening with me? He said, all right, here's what's going to happen. In January of next year, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you're going to go to Portland, Oregon. And you're going to be hosting a science conference in Portland, Oregon. And you're going to be on the stage on Sunday. There's going to be a question and answer period program on Sunday, and you're going to be the host of the question and answer period. And he said that you are going to say something to the audience that's going to catch the attention of a man that's sitting on the stage. Off stage, he's behind a curtain, and he's sitting there watching you and watching the audience, but you don't see him. And he's going to be sitting behind the curtain watching you, and you're going to say something that's going to really catch his attention. After the question and answer period is over, he's going to come up to you as you're leaving and walking off the stage. He's going to stop you, and he's going to introduce himself and give you a business card. And he's going to tell you that he wants to talk with you in the lobby. The two of you will go into the lobby, and he said, and he's going to tell you that he's connected to the motion picture business, and he's going to say to you, "I'm going to make a movie on your life. I'm going to make a movie on your life because I've been following your work. I've been hearing you, and I've watched you today." And so he says, I was here at this event because I was sitting on the backstage behind the curtain here watching the audience. And he said, the reason I was sitting up here is I'm very interested to hear all the speakers at the science conference, of course. But what I was mostly interested in as an entertainment guy in the entertainment business, I was mostly interested in who the audience was listening to. What kind of attention was each speaker getting? So I was studying the audience to see who they really liked and who they were bored with. And he said, I watched the audience as you came up and as you presented yourself. I watched the audience, and for the first time during the day with this whole question and answer period, everybody got quiet when you walked up. Normally when other people walk up, there's a lot of commotion in the audience, people talking to each other. He said, but for some reason, when you walked up on the platform, I noticed the audience all got quiet. And that was strange to me. Why did that happen? That everybody seemed to feel the need to be quiet. And he says, so I watched that happen. And he says, so you began talking to the audience, and some of the things you said was so outrageously, what was the word he used? Some outrageous and challenging things that you said to the audience. Well, I remember what I said, but I'm not going to say it here. But it got the audience's attention, and there was a lot of very important people there for the science conference from all over the world. Motion picture people, television executives, movie stars. It's very impressive. And so I forgot to tell you this. Let me back up real quick. So my psychic friend told me it's going to be January 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. No, 3, 4, and 5. 3rd, 4th, and 5th of January. It's going to be in Portland, etc. And then he told me about what was going to happen, and the guy's going to be on the stage and all of that. Well, a couple of months later, this was like in August, so a couple of months later, I got a phone call from Dave Talbot. And Dave Talbot was putting on a major science conference. So he called and said, Jordan, I'd like to have you host a conference for us. We'd like to have you host a conference. And I said, David, what kind? He said, it's going to be a science conference. And I said, David, you know, I don't know anything about science. Why would I be hosting a science? I can't even spell the word. And he said, well, you just come and just introduce the speakers and host the program. We'll do all the talking. So I said, okay, so where is it? And he said, it's going to be in Portland, Oregon. Really? Well, when? And he said, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's what my psychic friend said. Portland, Oregon, January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And so I did. I went up there. Well, so that's why, well, on the stage, I said what I said. It got Bob Leeds' attention. Well, that's what my psychic friend said. And so as I was walking off the stage, he stopped me and said, Jordan, I want to talk with you in the lobby. And I'm thinking, this is what my psychic friend said. So we went out in the lobby, we sat down, and he gave me his business card and showed me who he was. And he said, I'm going to make a movie about you because I've been following your work, and what you said today on the platform just knocked me out. And it was so controversial, but the way you handled it, the audience, he says, I'm just going to make a movie about you. And so that's when we became such good friends. Then when we found out that we lived close to each other, and we came back home, we drove back home together from all the way up from Portland. We drove all the way back together to San Diego. And that's why, you know, like I said, and then later on he was going out to breakfast and wanted to go out to breakfast with me. And so the other thing that happened too is we went out to breakfast, and after that we were talking coming back from breakfast. And Bob told me, he said, you know, it's the strangest thing when I'm around you. I feel like there's some kind of a vortex around you. And he says, I don't know, I'm just getting the feeling and that there's some kind of a spinning vortex around you where strange people come in, strange things happen to you, you meet people, you're not. And he said, all I'm seeing is I'm just telling you what my gut feeling is. There's some kind of a spinning vortex around you. And he said, you know, it's like a swastika. That's what a swastika is. It's the sun swirling in a circle, and that's what they call a swastika. And that's what he said. It's kind of like a swastika swirling around in a born. I said, Pensacola, Florida. Oh yeah, Pensacola. Yeah, okay. You know, I'd been to Pensacola. I knew he knew where it was. And so that night, after that incident at the IHOP, we decided to go to a movie. And the movie was just coming out. It was Contact. With you know, the movie Contact. I don't remember who the girl was.
With Jodie Foster. Carl
right,
Sagan's
right.
movie. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're in the movie, and in the movie, when the scientists are looking for a message from space with their equipment, they start picking up. Remember, in the movie, they was picking up something that was an organized message from outer space. They were picking up these beeps, and they're running around quick because it's not a regular thing. This is something they're picking up on their machines, on their dishes, if you remember the movie. And so they all gather around the big screen to see what this beeping is, and it all of a sudden begins to come into focus. It's a swastika circling around in a circle. And Bob Leeds looks at me and shakes his head. That's just what he got through saying when we're on the way to the movie. You remind me of a vortex, like a swastika going in a circle. And there in the movie, an hour later, is a swastika going in a circle. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and he just shook his head. And then later on in the movie, right after that in the movie, if you remember, the little girl is in her bedroom and she's talking on a ham radio, remember? And she's talking and her father comes in the movie, Contact. And her father comes in and says, "Who are you talking to on your ham radio? Who are you talking to?" And she said, "Oh, it's my friend who's into all kinds of strange stuff." "Oh, really?" "Yeah." And, well, where is he? She said, "Pensacola, Florida." That's in the movie.
Oh my God.
That's in the movie. He's from Pensacola, Florida, and he's into all kinds of strange stuff. That's what the little girl says in the movie.
And there you are.
And there I am sitting with him. I just got
through
telling him I'm from Pensacola, Florida, and he said, "You remind me of a swastika in a circle, going in a circle." And he looks at me. I look at him the second time. She said, "From Pensacola, Florida." And he looks at me and shakes his head. And afterwards, it was coming out, he said, "I don't know who you are. I don't know how this stuff happens. I don't understand it. But stuff happens around you. Every time I'm around you, strange things happen. I don't know who you are, where you've come from, but there's no doubt in my mind, I'm going to make a movie on you. I've seen it for myself." So I just thought that was that's just one more experience that I've had with Bob Leeds.
I love it, and that's the thing. I really do believe. Well, I know that from what you've said in your past experiences, that this has been confirmed for you by psychics and those who have been able to see that you have incarnated here from somewhere else, and you've been sent here with a very specific mission. But I really do believe that, because the stories that you have are absolutely incredible, and the people you've been around. I've seen the photographs of who you have been around, and I mean it's incredible. It's astonishing the amount of knowledge and wisdom you have attained and you've shared. But I want to thank you again for coming on this episode. And I guess I just want to tell everyone else out there, you can look forward to a lot more of these, because Jordan's got a lot more of these experiences we're going to be sharing with you here on Metaphysical Source TV. And of course, don't forget to check out Jordan Maxwell, jordanmaxwellshow.com. Make a donation, get in there, check out his book club, and don't go to jordanmaxwell.com, because that site has been stolen from him. And
That's
in
right.
the meantime, there's a lot more of this sort of programming and great stuff that you can look forward to on Jordan's podcast.
And it was Symbols, Sex, and the Stars. I mean, this book is incredible.
Oh, it is.
It literally is
No doubt
just
about
a masterpiece. I have it, you could ask my wife, I have it by my desk as a reference 24/7, Jordan. 24/7. It does not leave my sight. It's become my own little personal Bible.
Yeah, it is magnificent.
And I wanted to ask you, there's so much sexual symbolism in the Catholic Church. I mean, it's incredible. I was looking at some of your...
Actually, there's so much sexual symbolism in all religion. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all based on sex and astrology.
Absolutely.
That is the basis for all religion in the world we have today. Connected to Islam, all the different variations of Islam, Christianity, all the different so-called Christian religions,
right.
And Judaism is cram-filled with it. Astrology and sex are the two legs on which all three of those religions stand, period.
Tell me about it. I was looking at your Facebook page, the Maxwell Files, and I stumbled across a couple of pictures that were very interesting. I mean, you saw the Virgin Mary basically depicted as a clitoris.
Yep.
It was
I'm telling you,
it's crazy.
And actually, also, you need to know this too, that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are all traced back to their parent religion, which was Hinduism. The Hindus gave birth to Christianity, they gave birth to Judaism, and they gave birth to Islam. All three can be traced directly back to Hindu.
Jordan, that's very interesting because I thought something a little different. I thought it was Zoroastrianism.
Well, Zoroastrianism, like everything else, anytime you're fixing a big dinner, you're always going to add in a little of this and add in a little of that, and eventually,
part of the spell.
It accepted the three religions. Commingled, and each one got something from the other. And Zoroastrianism is a very big, important part of Christianity, Judaism, and it also has something to do with Islam. But I'm saying if you go back to day one, go back to the very beginning, before it started eclectic, the word is eclectic, when it begins to pick up other ideas and bring them into the religion. All three religions can go back to India. I mean, and when we hear, and here's another point on that, is that we're told that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are Abrahamic religions. All three claim Abraham as their father. Well, first of all, there was no Abraham as a man. The man never existed. There was no Abraham, and so when you go back into the history of the Jewish religion or Abrahamic religion, you'll find that it goes back to India, and that there was a priesthood that still exists today. There was a priesthood in India a long time ago called Brahmins, and the Brahmins were they were the most important. I'm trying to say it correctly. The most important priesthood in the ancient India. Brahmins were very, very superior to everyone. They had nothing to do with the ordinary common people. They looked down upon the common people as untouchables. They were cattle. They were like swine, the normal people. So if you were a Brahmin, you were a very special priesthood that had nothing to do with the common people. They were all a bunch of dogs and animals.
Well, Jordan,
so,
if they were Brahmin, I just wanted to ask you, if they were Brahmin, would they somehow did they think themselves to be descended to maybe higher beings, such as the Elohim, or?
Well, they just assumed that they were, I'm sure that they probably assumed themselves to have been connected to the ancient gods. And
right.
Get into that. But the point I'm making is that the Brahmins gave us the word a Brahmin. You put an A in front of it because a Brahmin.
Amazing. And
therefore, a Brahmin, and if you go back into the books of Genesis about Abraham, that was not his name. His name was Abram. Abram later on had his name changed to Abraham, but originally his name was Abram, and so you put an A in front of Brahman, it becomes Abram or Abraham, and his wife in the Old Testament, his wife was Sarah. Well, in India, there's a very spiritual, very, very important river called the Saraswati River that the Brahmins held to be very sacred. And so it was a Brahman and Saraswati River. So today we have Abraham and Sarah. No, Abraham and Saraswati River. It goes back to India. There was no Abraham. But I'm saying also that there was no Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is Brahman, Vishnu, Shiva. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or Osiris, Isis, Horus, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's always a triune God. It's always three. Exactly. That's why you have the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Why is it divided into three major religions? Because the number three is very important in the ancient Brahmin system and in the ancient prehistoric and ancient systems of religion.
Wow.
So I'm just saying that and when you're looking at religion, you need to go back as far back in history as you can possibly go with records and begin to see where the ideas and belief systems have come from, how they mutated or evolved, and how they come down to us today. So that I'm saying that everything you read in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is based on Hindu, but all of its teachings in those three religions are so filled with mythologies, other ideas have been thrown in. It's a very eclectic way of doing things because Islam picks up all kinds of ideas from other cultures and weaves it into their religion. So does Christianity and so does Judaism.
Absolutely.
It's just an amazing story about how these things have been cooked up over thousands and thousands of years. And of course, young people today, being born today, when you're born into the culture, you don't think about the fact that you could have been born in China. Had you been born in China to a Chinese family, you would have been born into that culture.
Exactly.
And you would have had those belief systems, unless, of course, you had been born in Russia. Then you would have those kind of customs and ideas and belief systems. Unless, of course, you were born in Africa and the jungle, you would have a different viewpoint on religion.
Again, it's your social environment determines who you are.
Period. That's
Period.
it.
Absolutely.
And I've had some of the most powerful people in the world that I were friends with. I'm talking about very powerful people, and one of them was a very, very important Jewish man, far more important than you will ever, than I can mention. And he said to me, Jordan, when it comes to religion, I much prefer listening to you because I was born an Orthodox Jew. But that doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. That means that that's who I am because that's the culture I was born into. But that doesn't mean I know anything. I'm just telling you what I happened by chance to have been born into an Orthodox Jewish family. I don't know what it means, really. I don't know where it comes from. And so I said, well, I appreciate that. And I said, and he was a very powerful lawyer. And he said, and so I told him, when it comes to law, I understand law, international law, maritime law. I understand the world of law, but when it comes to law, I would much rather, leave it to you. You're the lawyer, not me. So I know your subject and you know mine. But
that's right. The Talmud is basically a book of laws. That's why a lot of I think the best lawyers are Jewish, definitely. Jordan, I recently discovered I was Sephardic. And I have ancestors that were basically assaulted by the church during the Inquisition. So I mean, it's incredible. I've gone back in time. I've done my history, and I know exactly who my enemy is in this present day and time. And it's really an incredible thing.
There's a connection there. There's a connection between what happened back in World War I, World War II, what's going on today. The wars in the Middle East, it all has to do with something that happened a long time ago in the Middle East. It's still there.
Absolutely. And so many people, they want to say it's a Jewish coup d'etat. They want to say it's a Jewish conspiracy. Well, you know what? I don't buy that. A lot of these kindergartners out there that are saying they're awake. I'm referring to ignoramuses. They want to say that the Rothschilds are Jewish. They converted later on in life. My wife has a friend who married into the Rothschild family, and she'll testify that they were Anglo-Saxon Protestant. That they were not. They converted later on to Judaism. So that's an absolute fallacy, isn't it, Jordan?
Yeah. Well, look at. You need to go back and look at this whole subject of. I go way back, and I don't even know if we can get into it tonight, but I go way back on this subject. First of all, I have Jewish friends all over. My mother was Jewish, but I have Jewish friends. I've never even thought of myself as Jewish. It doesn't even mean nothing to me. But and because I grew up in a Catholic household, and that's my family.
So did I.
Catholic. But my mother, was Jewish. So That makes me Jewish, but I don't
Right.
relate to any of that because I understand the history of where all of this stuff comes from. And so there's a bigger story here about religion, about Judaism. Bigger story. And there's a bigger story about Islam. There's a book, there's a 2-volume set book that you really need to have about Islam. It's probably the most definitive work I have ever seen done anywhere on the earth. It's an incredible book, and you can get it. If you want to do it now quickly, you can get it still free on the web as a free ebook. And it's called Moon, MOON, then hyphen, and the letter O, then a hyphen, and theism, the word theism. Moon-o-theism. Moon hyphen O hyphen theism. Monotheism is about 13 to, if I'm remembering, 13 to 1500 pages between the 2 volumes, 750 apiece, something like that. Huge volumes, but it's the most incredible book I've ever picked up on Islam because it examines every tiny facet of Islam, where it came from, where the symbols, the words, the terms, the language, the culture, where the entire religion actually, in fact, comes from, what it actually means, what it's actually saying. And it's an extraordinary book for research, and the incredible part is you get it for free. Just download it, Moon-o-theism, and just download both volumes.
I'm doing it right now. We're doing it right now as you speak, Jordan. Now, Jordan, speaking of Islam, I know there's a secret society, Islamic secret society called the Fruits of Islam, and I was under the impression that it was the Jesuits that helped write the Quran. Is there any validity to that?
Yeah, I'm sure that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, was very much a part of founding of Islam. There is now research has been done, and some of the very important Islamic authorities writing, especially in Europe, are talking about the fact that Muhammad, in fact, never lived. There was no man named Muhammad who ever lived. It may be like Christianity, talking about Jesus did this and Jesus did that.
Jesus, Mithra, Dionysus. I mean, you explained it all in Zeitgeist.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that it's not just Zeitgeist. That's history. Go to a library and get a book on the history of Christianity, and you will see that in the Roman Empire at the time that Christianity was developing, we're talking about a couple of thousand years ago, that when Christianity was developing in the Roman Empire, there was a major religion in the Roman Empire already there. And that religion was called Mithraism. Most Christians do not realize that Rome had already had a major religion going in the first century, the time that Jesus would have been here, and it was called Mithraism. And Mithra was referred to as God's son. He was the son of God. He died on a cross. He was dead for 3 days and rose. He had 12 helpers and 12 followers. And you go to the encyclopedia and look up Mithraism and read all of the story about the god Mithra, and you will see it's the identical same story of Jesus.
Absolutely.
So that's how Christianity got to be so important, because it was already here. It's already in the empire called Mithraism. So later on, they just changed Mithra to Jesus and keep the same identical religion with the same identical teachings. And therefore, it's referred to today as the Roman Catholic religion. But what people don't realize is the word Catholic is a Latin word, which means universal. All over the world, universal is Catholic. Therefore, air is Catholic, water is Catholic, stupidity is Catholic, people are Catholic, dirt is Catholic, because all of these things exist all over the world, and that's what the word in Latin means. Catholic simply means worldwide, all over the earth, universal, it's everywhere. And
Right.
so Rome, you put the word in front of Catholic, Rome, so it's the Roman universal world religion. And we would call it Christianity. No, it's a Roman universal religion. It's called the Imperial Cult of Rome. The Roman religion today we call Christianity. Vatican, Rome, the Holy Father, Pontifex Maximus. So when you're looking at the Vatican and the Catholic Church and Christianity in general, you're looking at a Roman religion, Mithraism, the cult of the emperor, the Holy Father, and the very word Pope goes back to Papa.
Right.
And Papa, in the ancient languages of Europe, in that ancient language, Papa meant a door. Well, in point of fact, your Papa and your Father is the door to life.
Wow.
You walk through the door of life through your Papa, okay? But doors need to have a hinge to be able to open. So the word hinge in Latin is cardinal. So
Right.
you have a cardinal point on the zodiac, a cardinal point on a map, because cardinal means a hinge. So the cardinals are the hinges for Papa, the Pope, to open the door to you to the Roman universal world religion, which is based on Mithra, which comes from the ancient religions of the ancient prehistoric world. So there's nothing really Christian about Roman Catholicism, but then, of course, there's nothing really Christian about the Protestant Christian religion. Nothing. Because the Protestants were merely protesting the Roman religion. And they wanted to have other ideas and concepts brought in, but they kept the same basic pattern, Christianity.
Right.
So now you have Catholic Christianity and Protestant Christianity. Then when it comes to America and the Britannia, now you have Jehovah's Witnesses, Christadelphians, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Worldwide Church of God. You have all of these other cults that have broken off of the Protestant Christianity. Bottom line is, after everything's said and done, there is no real legitimate Christianity on the earth today because it can be traced back to the Roman Empire, and the actual religion, which should be being practiced today by all mankind, has been completely hidden from the world of mankind, and that's why there's so much chaos, so many problems and troubles and heartache.
It didn't take me very long to figure out that so much of what is going on, humans are not being told. We are not being told the real truth. And I'm going a couple of things in particular I want you to know and I want you to remember. Nothing in this world, nothing works the way you think it does. There's always more to the story. You hear about some marriage breaking up and the husband did this, the wife did that, and it's very obvious what happened. No, it's not obvious what happened. There's a lot more to the story you don't know. You don't know her background, her past. You don't know his past. You don't know what was going on in the family. You have no idea. So nothing is simple. This is why you have courts. So I found that nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. Banks do not loan money. Governments are not empowered to protect you. Police department is not there to serve you. Institutions of higher learning, colleges and educational institutes are not there to educate you. The entire superstructure of civilization in the Western world is a combination of brilliantly put together and planned, well-planned schemes to direct the minds of the people in such a way as to serve their masters. And I've known that for a long time. And one of the biggest tools in the hands of the masters who run this world is Hollywood. Hollywood is an incredible story. I've said this, and maybe many hearing me now have heard me say this, but I'll say it again, that the white man's establishment comes from Europe. And in northern, southern, well, all four, northeast, south, and western Europe, even at the time of the Roman Empire and before, that whole section of Europe that we call the center for the white man's presence on the earth was quite literally ruled over. Ancient Europe was ruled over by a priesthood called the Druids, and the Druids were they were the ministers, the priests, the judges, the lawyers. They were the religious leaders. So there was a priesthood that dominated Europe. It still does. Europe is still a Druidic country. And America is a Druidic country. And unless you understand the Druidic system, then you're never going to figure out what's going on in America and England. But one of the most important symbols in the Druid system was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with the magic wand. And also the orchestra leaders and conductors always have a magic wand. And you have better played to the tune of the master. He directs you to play, and he directs you to stop with the magic wand. So you're dancing to his music, okay? Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. And Hollywood is a Druidic establishment. And the symbols, the words, the terms, the stories are designed. Think about it. Think about how Hollywood does what they do. I'm not saying they're evil. I'm just explaining how Hollywood works. You have, first of all, a story. So somebody has to write the story. All right? So now you've got a story. Now you have to give it to a screenwriter who's going to adapt that story, excuse me, adapt that story into a screenplay. Because you can't just tell the story. You have to design it to be a movie. Now once you do that, then you're going to have the actors, very important actors, because you're going to need people to act the part, and so it doesn't mean that they actually have human feelings. No, they're being paid to act like they care, to act like they love someone too. It's an act, and so you're paying actors to act out the part that the screenwriters have written. And you want to make sure the actors do it just right. So you have to have a director, and he's going to direct everything you say and do the way he wants it said. Then you have, of course, the producer, and he's also subjected to the executive producer who's producing the money. And so all of this is a whole system of putting together a system of a story that tells you a story. It causes you to think in terms of what you just saw, so that people go out from the movie and think in their minds, this is the way you normally would react to a situation, the way that the guy in the movie did. And so that's why today, in the Western civilization, especially in the West, our ability to work with each other and live together as humans is so screwed up. Because we've been watching so much television and so many movies and so much silliness coming out of Hollywood, so much violence and sex and drugs and all the rest of it, that people have no idea in the world how to live anymore. They've lost their humanity.
Okay, so you're saying that in many ways Hollywood movies and television are actually sort of doing behavior modification.
Precisely.
Now, Jordan, you mentioned all these terms such as the Empire, Roman Empire, and I'm thinking Star Wars. And, you know, it's fitting because not only is there a new Star Wars film coming out, but you were actually, I believe, an advisor to George Lucas. Can you tell us about that?
No.
Or
no,
what happened?
No. Some people took the picture I've had out there. I have lunch with Michael Eisner, the president of Disney, and and George Lucas and a bunch of other people on that level. I had lunch with them out at a special party, but I, in fact, never, in fact, ever had anything to do with George Lucas's work at all. I admired his work, and we talked about it over lunch. But I, in fact, never worked with him at all. But that doesn't mean I couldn't.
Right.
I never. As a matter of fact, when I first met him at the party, when it was a kind of like it was a very open place, and you had food everywhere. So you pick up whatever food you want and go find a place to sit down and have dinner. Well, they had these big, long wooden tables, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, these long tables, and pick up your food and go sit someplace. So I picked up what I wanted, and I went over to this long table, lots of people there, and sat down because it's an open spot. And as it turns out, I'm sitting right next to, on my right-hand side, Michael Eisner, the president of Disney, and directly across from me was George Lucas. And there were many other very big names there also. And so I'm sitting here having lunch with them, talking, and George Lucas said to me, he said, he introduced himself, I shook his hand, and I told him my name, and he said, Jordan, you've got a book, it's a red-covered book, it's something about the church doesn't want you to read. And I said, yes, I do. And I said, I'm very happy that you know about that book. And he said to me, I don't read a lot because I don't have time, but I pay other people, to do that kind of research for me.
Right.
But my wife particularly made me read your part in that book. She got the book, and she was reading the stuff you were talking about in the book, and she made me sit down and read your part. That's why I remember the name so well, because I don't read that much. I have other people doing it, but I did read your part, and I was very impressed with that. And he said, "Do you have a business card?" And I did. I gave it to him, and then Michael Eisner at that. I asked, "Well, what are you talking about?" So then George and Lucas and myself were telling him, Michael about religion and all the stuff I was into. So I was very delighted to be able to have lunch with the two of them and everybody else that was there. But in point of fact, no, I never worked with him. I would love to. I would love to do that.
Well, I'm sure they took notes, Jordan, because I see so much occult symbolism in Star Wars, and I know you do too.
Well, yeah. There's occult symbolism
everywhere,
coming directly from me in a lot of motion pictures, especially
I believe it.
in National Treasure 1 and 2 and Da Vinci Code. A lot of stuff in there came directly from me.
I wanted to ask you this though. I mean, the deity. I'm sure you've seen the little green guy in Star Wars, Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda.
I have seen him depicted in Eliphas Levi. Levy literature. I mean, he's a Rosicrucian deity. Yoda is.
That's right. That's exactly right. And one of my dearest friends in this world was Manly P. Hall, and Manly Hall put out a book in which it's called what was it called? The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and in it, a beautiful color picture of little Yoda, and he's explaining who he is.
Wow. Now, could the Jedi be or symbolize Freemasons?
I suppose so, and probably a particular faction of Freemasonry. Like I said, Manly P. Hall was one of the foremost authorities on the earth and of the occult world. I don't think there was ever a man on the earth that was as brilliant and as profoundly wise and well read as Manly Palmer Hall.
Oh yes, and, his works on Babylon. You can take a drink of water if you want, Jordan.
Yeah, I know that.
No, but his work with Manly P. Hall's work with the whole Babylon series. I mean, I play that from time to time on the station. I mean, it's pretty riveting.
Is that who did that Babylon series? Who did that?
No, not Bill Cooper, but I mean he did a lecture. I believe Manly P. Hall did on the ancient origins of Babylon that I like to listen to in particularly. But
most important thing in my book that Manly P. Hall did for people today to hear is if you go on his website, manlyphall.org, manlyphall.org, there are 8 90-minute lectures on astrotheology.
Right.
Those are the most, that 8 90-minute free, they're free, just go there and listen to them, are the most important 8 lectures I've ever heard anybody do in this world. It's the most important stuff ever.
Absolutely.
And
good,
in
groundbreaking.
that he explains all of the stuff that's going on in the concepts and ideas in Judaism, Christianity, all the belief system, where they really come from. It's manlyphall.org. Very simple.
And you know, they have I'm out here in Brooklyn, New York. They have a museum. I know they have the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles back there with you, but they have a museum, the Manly P. Hall, here in New York as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Manly Hall was a very close friend of mine. When he passed away, he left me all of his research journals as a gift to me. I was shocked and amazed when the president of the university called and said, I knew that Manly had passed, and he said, well, Manly Hall wanted you to have something as a token of his friendship, so come pick it up. And I asked him, what is it? He said, no, just come pick it up. Well, I drove up from San Diego that very day.
Right.
And he left me his entire collection of his research work, left it to me. And I was just amazed. That's priceless, absolutely priceless.
It truly is.
It was priceless, and he left it to me. But it's gone now. Somebody burned everything I owned. I had it in a warehouse.
Oh my God!
Burned the warehouse down.
I heard about that last year. I heard you were having some problems, Jordan, and you know I really hope and pray things are going well for you, and people are listening. If you're tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, buy his books. Go to JordanMaxwellShow.com, donate, do everything you can, because this is a rare gem. He's a true cavalier in the world of occult symbolism, folks. I mean, you wouldn't have El Gran Montalvo right here if it wasn't for forefathers like Jordan Maxwell in the occult research world. So that's my plug.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, but if you go to Jordan Maxwell, that's Jordan like the river Jordan Maxwell show, Jordan Maxwell show.
Right.
Because there is a JordanMaxwell.com, but that one doesn't belong to me. That was stolen from me. And so don't go there. JordanMaxwell.com, leave it alone. It belongs to criminals who stole it from me.
They hacked my old website, Jordan. I know how you feel. They steal things all the time, don't they, those bastards?
Yeah, well, that's all right. What goes around comes around. They'll get there soon. But anyway, if you go to JordanMaxwellShow.com, and you will see at the top, you'll see on the banner that says Research Society. What that is that's my new website, and I just call it a Research Society. It's just my new website to replace the one that was stolen from me. So I'm downloading all of my work, all the many years of documents and ideas and concepts and systems and where they come from and words and terms and symbols into a whole new website. It's brand new. And so if you want to join, it's right there. Go to Jordan Maxwell Show and you will see Research Society. Click on it and join. I'm pouring in all kinds of stuff over the years that I've been collecting. And so I want to put the stuff out there. But incidentally, I do not intend to put my work out into the public any longer. Right. I intend to do what I'm doing now is I'm putting it into a research club, so to speak, a research society of sorts, meaning that I am keeping it private. You have to join to be a part of what I'm doing. because I've been giving stuff away since 1967, giving away all the documents, knowledge, and everything, and I've never gotten anything for it. And now at 75 years old, I can't even afford to keep my website going. So I decided to take my work off the public. I mean, there's enough stuff out there already on YouTube and on the web about me and my work.
Right.
So if you want to get in on my work today and what I'm doing and downloading all the stuff that I'm into, then just join the Research Society. That's all I would say.
Absolutely. And I'm joining today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joining Jordan Maxwell's Research Society. Jordan, I would like to have you on the broadcast as much as possible. I think we're a great duo. I have a premium outlet with TalkStream Live, very high number of top 50. So people are listening. I mean, they've been listening to you, but they're listening to me, and I really would like to bring you on more often.
Well, let's do it as a regular thing then. You know, I don't care.
Oh man, talk about a dynamic duo. Now we got some more time left. I mean, how much time do you have left, Jordan? Would you like to do maybe another 30 minutes with us?
Yeah, we could do another 30 minutes. I have a show at 7:30.
Excellent, excellent,
So
great. Well,
we can go till 7:30.
let's go back to Star Wars again and the symbolism that's in Star Wars. You know, I see one of the main antagonists, and that's Darth Vader. I mean, to me, he symbolizes the Nazis. Say that trench coat, the cape. He looks like Goebbels to me, or something.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of that is in there. You know, there's a lot of stuff in Star Wars, but the main thing that I thought of about Star Wars is the very name.
Yes.
Wars in the Stars, Star Wars, and that's in fact what's going on. There's something going on out there in our galaxy, in our solar system. our other planets in our solar system are we're finally getting some people to tell us something about what's going on in our own solar system.
Right.
And when you begin to look at our planets closest to us, there are all kinds of things that we didn't know, implying that there is other life forms here in our solar system. I've talked with scientists, very, very well-established scientists at NASA. I'm not going to give their name because they're in trouble now because they've talked too much. But they talked with me privately up in San Francisco, and they were talking about what we know. What happened was that the scientist comes walking up to me in San Francisco. I was speaking at a conference there. And he said, "Jordan, I've come here to talk to you. I'm not interested to attend this conference, but I came here to talk to you." And he said, "Because you've been talking a lot about the planet Saturn in mythology and religion. I wanted to tell you, since you're here in my area, I wanted to tell you a few things about Saturn that we at NASA know that nobody's ever heard." And he began telling me some of the strangest stuff about the planet Saturn, and that basically that the planet Saturn is inhabited.
Right.
There's life forms there. We know
Wow.
they're there because we've seen them. And then the North Pole of Saturn is a hexagon, and we've seen large ships. One in particular, very large ship. He said it's estimated to be about 3,200 miles wide from Los Angeles to New York. Well, that's how big this thing is. And it is creating another ring around Saturn, because the rings around Saturn are artificial. They're not normal. Somebody's making those rings. And there's a ring being made right now as we speak, and it's almost completed. And so
Wow.
they've got pictures, as they flew by Saturn, they've got pictures of this huge ship that's estimated to be 3,200 miles wide, creating another ring around Saturn. and it's almost done. They can see where it started, and now it's almost connected, but it's not yet connected. And so they know. And then he said, we've seen and got pictures of ships going into Saturn, actually going into the planet, not landing on the planet, but going into it.
Right.
And ships coming out of the planet, coming out of and going into. So we know there's activity there on Saturn. What it is, who it is, we don't know. But there's activity there. That should tell you something. And then, of course, when you look at the surface of Mars and begin to see the incredible stuff that we...
Oh, you see infrastructures.
The infrastructure
Yes.
of Mars. The glass tunnels.
Satellites even.
Yeah, it's incredible. The stuff that is on Mars that obviously is not natural. Somebody made them. And so now we begin
blue
to
skies.
Look at,
They even have
Yeah.
blue skies on Mars.
Yeah. But my point is, it's highly intelligent out there. And they're on Mars. We know that for a fact. We've seen too much. They're on the moon. We've seen that too much. There's life on the planet Saturn. We've seen that. So basically what I'm saying is that our solar system is alive and teeming with life forms which are far superior to us, highly intelligent, and far superior to us because they can do things we can't do. And so it all implies that these are the same intelligences that have given us our religions and our philosophies and our mythologies of our religions. Where did all of these stories come from? Well, it goes back to the ancient world, when this world, and even today, but this world has been occupied by higher intelligences. We call them demons or gods or
Archons,
poltergeists or whatever you want to call them.
Nephilim, Archon.
Yeah, Nephilim. Right. And the Mormon religion. If you look at the Nephites and the Mormon books and magazines, you'll see pictures of what they call the Nephites. And the Nephites are huge, enormous, overly normal, human, large, huge guys, big, huge,
Or
enormous.
like the Amalek.
Exactly. And so, but Nephites, Nephites, put that for the word Nephilim.
Wow.
Nephilim.
Yes.
The Nephilim were the offspring of the fallen angels with humans. That's a whole story you can go into for hours on that subject. And so,
Right.
people
it truly
do not know
is.
how to read any of this stuff.
It truly is a intergalactic star war. And
That's right.
Jordan, I was looking at, I like to look at the symbolism or the predictive programming from Hollywood, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Just wanted to mention, in the new Star Wars movie, the symbol of the Sith, who I believe represent the Jesuits, is actually a Vatican Knights of Malta cross. I mean, the lightsaber is a Knights of Malta cross. I was blown away when I saw that symbolism.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that ABC or Disney bought ABC.
Yes.
Disney is filled to the brim. I'm talking about filled to the brim with Illuminati occult symbolism, words, and it's just pouring out.
Yes.
Pouring out into the world occultism on a level and amounts and a level that's unbelievable.
Well, they talk about the magic of Disney.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's really very dark.
Yes.
I'm talking about something different than just slipping in symbolism of ancient religions and all that kind of thing. No, I'm talking about something different. What I'm talking about is a profound, awesome outpouring of seditious, incredible propaganda based directly on the Illuminati symbolism from the 1700s, the dark occult symbolism going back into
Yes.
the devil worship and demon worship, going back into the Middle Ages. I mean, there's a lot of very, very powerful, scary stuff going on at Disney and ABC that people just don't know about. They don't see it.
Jordan, they literally have 666 on the Disney logo.
No, that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm talking.
And right in the castle, I've seen so much symbolism. I mean, from Isis and the pillars of masonry, both Jacking and Boas. I mean, it's all over their work.
Well,
It's
that's what I said.
sexual symbolism. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I saw The Lion King, and I didn't
Yeah.
notice it right away. But Simba goes and he lays down on the grass, the lion Simba, and from the embers or the dust where he lays down on the rock, they go up into the sky and they spell up sex.
That's right. Hmm.
And that goes into the subconscious. I mean, Walt Disney even had a personal relationship with, I believe it was J. Edgar Hoover, and he was even being brainwashed or mind controlled at military bases like Lookout Mountain or Laurel Canyon. I mean, these places in Hollywood that are part of the druidical occult, just cabal.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Los Angeles. And
Yeah, me too.
Studio City was walking distance to me, and Laurel Canyon. That's a whole story in itself. Laurel
Yes.
Canyon and Studio City in the outskirts of Los Angeles, out in the valley, it's called, and that's where Nazism was born. We think that Nazism was a creation of the Germans during the Second World War, and point of fact, no, that's not true at all. Nazism was born in Studio City in Los Angeles. It was born there. That's where it was created, up on Laurel Canyon and Mulholland.
Right.
Up near the Mulholland and Laurel, where Laurel crosses Mulholland, was a hotbed of occultists. And Houdini and a lot of other people lived right up in that area. But it was a hotbed for occultism. And they developed, that's a whole story in itself. I mean,
Well, absolutely. They developed, Jordan, just the artists, the legendary rock stars of today, all
That's
of
right,
them.
exactly.
I mean, from Red Hot Chili Peppers to Jim Morrison, whose father was part of the Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, they all had military ties, and they all had this occult tie to what I believe in my research to the Process Church. It all goes back to that, I believe.
Well, I had a friend who passed away quite a few years ago. This is a long time ago. And he was a limo driver and with the studios. And he was telling me, I used to go with him sometimes when he was driving movie stars around. But he was telling me that one time he got a call to pick up a very famous movie star. I'm not going to use his name. And he said that he had a couple of other people with him and picked him up at the airport to bring him back to Hollywood. And he said, and as they were driving back on the freeway, this very famous movie star asked the driver, because he knew him well, he said, "Who do you think is the most wealthiest man on the whole planet Earth? The most powerful, wealthiest man on the earth?" And my friend said, so I just give him the same name that any other goofball would. I said Rockefeller, and everybody else. The guys there laughed. They thought it was funny. I said the Rothschilds, and then they laughed again. They thought that was funny. And then the guy said, then the movie star said, "No, I'm serious. Who do you think is the most wealthiest, most powerful man on the planet?" And he said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Well, that's where we're going." He lives right here in Los Angeles in the Hollywood Hills off of Mulholland. And he's a German. He's the one that gave us the Germanic idea of Nazism. He's the guy who finances all of that kind of stuff for Adolf Hitler. We're
Wow.
going to see him today. And so he went on to telling me about all kinds of where this guy lived up in the mountains and of hills, in the hills of Los Angeles. But the point I'm making is that there's a lot of things going on this earth that we have no idea in the world where they come from, who did it, where it started, and so we just go along to get along and believe whatever we're given to believe, never realizing nothing is what you think it is. The whole thing is a charade and a show.
Tell me
And
about
it's
it.
always based on political power. Religion is simply a tool in the hands of the people who run the planet.
I mean, Hollywood truly is a freak kingdom, is it not, Jordan?
Well, of course.
I mean, let's look at the word
Well,
Hollywood itself.
Let's look at where the
Hollywood,
word
yes, yeah, that's exactly. You see, we're going the same place. The word Hollywood. Where is it derived from? Right,
It comes from in the ancient Europe.
the Druids.
Before the Roman Empire existed, before Rome, in Europe there was already a well-established peoples in Europe, and Central and Northern, well, all four, Northeast, Western, Southern Europe. There were already lots of people there, and that system, before Rome existed, that system was called Druids.
Yes.
The Druidic system. The Druids were a Celtic or a Celtic peoples and European peoples, and in that system we call Druid. The Druids were the doctors, the lawyers, the politicians, the teachers, any position that was important in the ancient world in Europe was occupied by a Druid. Well, the Druids had a very important symbol that they carried with them always, and that symbol was a magic wand.
That's right.
Like today you have orchestra leaders who conduct their orchestra. They orchestrate the music, orchestrating with a magic wand.
That's right.
Just like Merlin the magician orchestrates his magic with a magic wand. That all goes back to the Druid magic wand of Europe. And so magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly bush, holly tree. And so it was always made out of a holly wood.
Right. I mean,
So
the Freemason used wands, right?
But I'm talking about an ancient, far before Freemasonry ever existed. I'm talking about a culture of people called the Druids, and they had a system of magic. And over that magic, they used a symbol to manipulate that magic called a magic wand.
Right.
And today, people do not realize that in Christianity and in Judaism, virtually every time you will see a picture or a sculpting or a picture of Moses, he always carried a magic wand. Anytime in the churches of Europe, throughout all of Europe, when you see sculptures and pictures of Jesus doing miracles, he's always doing a miracle with a magic wand everywhere.
Right.
People do not realize that there are many sculptures all over Europe and Christian cathedrals and churches showing or painted pictures showing Jesus doing his miracles with a magic wand. Go on the web and type in magic wands with Jesus or magic wands with Moses, and you will see all kinds of sculptures where Moses is doing magic with his magic wand, or Jesus is raising the dead, or doing some incredible incredible thing with his magic wand. Right. I am telling you that the entire story of Judaism and Christianity is Druidic. It goes back to the use of magic wands. Yes. All you've got to do is go on the web go on the web and type in image. Go to image and then type in magic wands with Moses, magic wands, and Jesus.
Right.
And then you will see all kinds. St. Peter was carrying a magic wand and did magic with his magic wand. But people are not told this kind of thing. They don't know anything about it. All they know is they go to church and have no idea in the world where church comes from.
Right. Where does the word church come from? I've heard you break that down before.
Yeah, well, people go to church and have no idea that the word church goes back to It's obviously an English word. Church. Church is English. But it is traced back to, in a dictionary, it goes back to Scotland. In Scotland, if you are a Christian, Sunday morning you're going to kirk, K-I-R-K, or K-E-R-K. Kirk can be spelled either way. This is why you have a Captain Kirk of the good ship Enterprise, taking mankind where he's never been before. Because that's what Captain Kirk is church in English. And that's why churches are an enterprise. That's why the spaceship is called Enterprise, because churches are divided into denominations, like 20s and 10s and 50s. It's an enterprise. It's a company. It's a corporation. It's money. It's political power and business.
Absolutely.
And so, and of course, the whole world is a business. You are a corporation. My God, that's so much people don't know. Did you know that you yourself are a corporation by law?
Absolutely. I'm being sold. You're being sold. We're all being sold on the Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange as collateral for the debt, Jordan.
That's exactly right. Let me go on
ahead.
with this.
Go ahead.
When I see you with some girl and I tell you the next day, you know, that girl you were out with last night, she's bad company. Company? Then you say to me, mind your own business.
That's right.
I'm going to get married. She's going to be my partner. Partner, business, company. We're talking business
all
here.
Business terms, yes.
It's all business terms. Why? Because getting married is simply a business.
Tell me about it.
And therefore, if the marriage doesn't work, it's all right. Businesses don't always work. So if the business doesn't work, it was bad business or it was monkey business, usually. But it's none of my business. That's your business.
That is truly funny.
But if you're going to do business with somebody else, another corporation, you're going to have a license. So that's why you have to have a marriage license, because you're doing business. If you don't think you're doing business, then wait till it don't work out, because you're not going to God, you're going to court. Bring your car, your house, and your money. It's just business.
Oh, and there's so much of wordplay regarding. I've heard you break it down, the Watergate in court, and
of course.
Yeah, I've heard it. You know, Jordan, I have a magic wand. Do you know that?
Well, I had one too.
I have a scalar wand. Actually, I've been looking into it. Actually, the tip of the wand is filled with quartz, and actually has healing energies. I mean, this is no joke. This is like Tesla technology, and it has cured me in the past. I remember last year, or close to 2 years ago, I had a steel beam literally fall on me. And I mean, I came, my wife saw me, and she saw I was literally a mess. I looked like one giant bruise. And Bruce looked like a bruise. So, you know, she gave me some of this treatment with the scalar wand. And, you know, wouldn't you know, I was like Superman a month, 2 months into it. It just went away.
I'm just telling you, there
Amazing.
is something to all of this.
Magic.
Yep.
Incredible. Some incredible healing magic. Jordan, we were talking about Hollywood and the symbolism just surrounding Hollywood. The Oscars. The Oscar looks like the Egyptian deity Horus or Ptah, does he not?
Yeah, Ptah. Yeah. That's where it comes from.